Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Rock and Roll podcast. Check out this record. Math nerds unite from all over as we have an equation for you to sink your teeth into. My name is Frank, and before we discuss these odd time signatures, let me introduce to you the latest addition to the Italian American population and Paisano, Mark.
Well, a happy Cabanera to you too, buddy.
Oh, man, that's so awesome. You can always find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcasts, and, of course, our lovely mugs on the YouTube.
That's right. But when you ask, great question. Thank you just so much. New episodes, as we like to call it, they drip to the drop each and every Friday. We've gotten good about them actually being on Friday again. So
yeah, I know.
Good on us.
Yeah. Now, if you're hearing us for the first time, welcome.
Hey.
This show was just something for us to discuss the records we love, but it's also morphed into a haven for discovery of bands we've always wanted to listen to or have never even heard of before. Mark?
Yeah. Absolutely. So as I clean off my glasses, you're gonna know that you definitely want to check out our Verse series, where Frank and I will duke it out on behalf of two bands or albums or whatevs in the names of what we like to call domination.
Love it.
I don't know. I was trying something new.
It was great. It was great.
Yeah, thank you.
So while you're checking that stuff out, be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook group. Hopefully these episodes will actually leave you wanting more of what we like to say musical goodness. If you have a record you want us to check out, give us a comment and we'll go ahead and put that in the queue. So, last week I invited Mark to meet me in St. Louis. And while Judy Garland is a legend, the movie really doesn't go anywhere. However, we're not talking about the movie. We're talking about the band with the same name. So elevator pitch time, Mark. You're describing math rock really to someone in a sentence length. And what would you say?
Oh man, I'm the worst person to do this for you, but imagine a world where jazz had a directly insane impact on rock and roll. That would be the foundation of math rock. So slightly more rigid, but sonically more progressive than what you would otherwise call rock and roll. Like I said, not the right person to ask this question to, but a really interesting genre and style of music. I know that's longer than a sentence, but really interesting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would describe it as a form of rock and roll that uses odd time signatures and pushes the boundaries of traditional song structures while being schizophrenic. Now, after I wrote that, I said some people may not even understand the odd type signatures or the odd time signatures. So, pushing the boundaries of traditional song structures while being schizophrenic would probably be my elevator pitch. Now, the band, Meet Me in St. Louis, there's not much really to discuss as they were barely around, really a blip on the map at the end of the day. They formed in 2005 in Gulliford, Surrey, England. Benny Llewellyn, vocalist Toby Hayes, Ollie Knowles, Paul Phillips, and Lewis Reynolds. Now, they recorded a 3-track demo titled, and Mark, if this isn't indicative of their songs, I don't know what is. Promise Me That We'll Never Learn to Be Like Them. I Don't Want to Wind Up Like That. Relax, Baby. We're Going to End Up Like Us. That's the actual title of the demo.
That was one song title?
That's the title of the demo. Yeah, exactly. The next year, they released a 5-track EP, and here, check out this title. Okay. And with the right kind of eyes, you could almost see the high water mark, that place where the wave finally broke and rolled back. Wow. What a mouthful, which we're going to see more of, actually, in the song titles. So on September 24th, 2007, or I said across the pond, the 24th of September, 2007, this debut record, Variations on Swing, was released. Mark, you ready to get your math on?
I've cleaned my glasses. I've got a calculator ready. I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
All right, here we go. So track 1, the torso has been severed in mid-thorax. Woo! Right off the bat, we get this spastic tune that basically represents the band and the album. Don't expect to get attached to a portion of the song because as we discussed, this will change every 20, 30 seconds, and these parts do not come back around at all. This song, though, I did enjoy. It's melodic, aggressive, and I think they manage to bring in some memorable melodies. Mark, I've always wanted to know, how's your thorax doing?
Well, Frank, I'm not really a medical expert. I just play one on this podcast. And it's good. Thank you for asking. There is so much to take in with this track. It's wild to hear the move, like literally from style to style, sound to sound, and time signature to time signature. I would never be able to keep this song straight in my head while trying to play this, like, ever. Like
I'd forget the
you'd have to teach
parts.
me parts, we'd record it and then just chop and paste it together. Really crazy stuff, but
Yeah.
really intriguing. It, like, I remember finishing this track and going, what the hell's the rest of the album gonna sound like? Like, in a good way.
Right. And we're like,
But,
where's
like,
it go to from there, right?
yeah, totally.
Well, track two, well, you damn well should. So, one thing you cannot take away from this band is their musicianship, right? The song really starts with very complex finger tapping that would probably even make Eddie Van Halen's eyebrow raise up. Now, there's a YouTube video of someone actually playing along with the entire album. And listen, my jaw basically just drops to the pit of the Earth's crust. It's that impressive. This tune does have a kind of screamo emo vibe and maybe some hints of At the Drive-In. To me, with regards to that emo tag, I think the accent of them, being British, kind of makes it less corny. Mark, what are your thoughts on this tune?
You said crust, and I instantly want pizza.
I know, dude.
I'm not really hearing that accent all that much, but to your point, it doesn't sound corny to me. So I don't know how that blend happened there, but like I said, it didn't sound corny to me at all. This track does feel like it's a little bit more bound by genre and style, though. I think your comparison to At the Drive-In covers it very well. Plus, the gang vocals on the This Time Next Year as a song ends sounds really cool, and, like, I think really just helped bring the number together. And it felt a little bit more like a traditional song, as opposed to the first track, which felt like they were just kind of like grinding these different parts out, spontaneously.
Yeah, absolutely. Track three is Right This Way, You Maverick Renegade. The best way I discovered to approach these songs is to pick those moments that are like personal highlights and remember them, as that made that easier to distinguish actually the tracks. This song does have less melody, but on the technical side, the fast paced, like palm muting arpeggios were just absolutely impressive. Mark, you Maverick Renegade, your thoughts?
I got this intense sense of spiraling from those fast arpeggios, and I liked that. While the song was changing kind of continuously, it had that kind of core to it, of that swelling, that spiraling aspect to it. Really interesting track. I really dug this one. It was cool.
Cool. Track four, I Am Champagne, You Are Shit. Wow. One of the very few tunes where Spotify actually shows the lyrics for this. It's early 2000s screamo lyrically for sure, but they had some spice to it with the particular phrase of burning a hole into my retina. I could only imagine practicing these songs to perfect them while playing them live. That just really had to be an experience onto itself.
Sure.
Mark, most of the champagne I drink is shit. What about you?
Yeah, champagne usually gives me a headache, unless it's that good. So yeah, I'm agreeing with you. Most of it shit. So I try to stay away from most champagne. Wait, hold on, I'm going on a whole other thought process here. This was one of the harder tracks for me to follow. The off rhythms really kind of messed with me. But I'm with you, man. How do you even practice this, let alone try to keep the song straight in your head so that you can play it live?
I have no idea where to begin. Yeah.
Repetition and muscle memory, because whoa.
Yeah. I agree.
It's just insane. It's kind of crazy.
I agree. Track five, I Beat Up the Bathroom. I'm sorry. There's a bunch of math rock that I've probably have never heard, but I have the feeling there's less acoustic math rock out there than electric. Again, I'm impressed with the acoustic nature of this tune, but I would have personally actually rather have had the loud spastic electric sound. However, I guess I'm going to contradict myself. I do like the tempo change too, which allows a little time to breathe in the album. Mark, last time you beat up the bathroom, you didn't apologize. So explain yourself, mister.
Frank, we've talked about this. I never apologize for Sloppy Taco Night or its aftermath. For me, as a guy who doesn't know much about math rock and what the typical math rock album would sound like, I thought this was an interesting break in the record, especially with the the strings. Excuse
Yeah.
me, I wrote stings for some reason. My brain was trying to figure out what I was writing. With the strings coming in and out up there, it does have a little of that early 2000s emo appeal to it vocally.
Oh yeah.
Not my thing, but I got to tell you, I didn't hate this. I thought it was
Right.
really interesting, and a way, especially for a full album, to just take on another shape. I thought it was a nice addition.
Cool. Track 6. Here we go. I'm going to try to pronounce this. Eins Ziwi Drie Hasselhoff. Translated from German to English, we get 1, 2, 3 Hasselhoff. And leave it up to the Hoff to provide, which may be my favorite tune on the record. It reminds me of some Million Dead, the Frank Turner band before he went solo. And the first time I hear some flaws with, it's the first time at least I hear some flaws with the vocalist Toby and trying to keep up with the erratic nature, but I actually really even like that more because I heard some of those. So I kind of really dig this tune. Mark, what about you?
Yeah, I really like how aggressively this song is paced. Balance that with the sparse bass and vocal parts, then the building momentum parts, and I think this is one of the better examples of how to use of how he uses his voice as an instrument along with the rest of the arrangement.
Right.
It's probably my favorite track,
Yeah.
not just thus far, but probably of the album.
Cool. Track 7. All we need is a little energon and a lot of luck. Love a good quote from Optimus Prime any day of the week. At 7 tracks in, we could see their blueprint really for making a song that's theirs. So, Mark, are you on Prime's side or are you heading over to hang out with Megatron for this number?
Oh, Optimus all day, brother. Optimus all day.
Yes.
This one did feel a bit more classically structured up to the wild finger tapping or finger picking solo, whatever that thing was. That thing was crazy. I think that's what's happening. Like I think it was. I don't know. It's a cool number. I'm having a hard time with these guys. This isn't.
I would try to remember what you're
yeah.
talking about, but I'm like, wait, which song is that?
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's I think I could place what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Track 8, Come to New York. There were fewer murders last year. Well, a welcoming bass intro and more impressive, of course, finger tapping. You could really hear those jazz chords kind of punked up. And there's even some funk breakdowns. The memorable moment for me is the Stay in Your Homes part, which really seemed like a build up to the whole entire song. Mark, what say you?
You know, this is another one that I'm kind of into. I like that bass intro, plus the moodiness of that finger tapping, and then that really cool loud part works really well. I'm sorry, that's the best description I could come up for it.
Sounds good.
Plus, there's all these like really erratic bass runs, and the band kind of goes along with them after a certain point. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Track 9, I Got Knives in My Eyes. I'm Going Home Sick. Wow, another ever-changing tune, which I can't say left a lasting impression on me, but maybe if again placed differently, then that opinion would be different. Mark, how are those knives in your eyes?
I used my glasses to block them from getting in there, so. But then I took them and I used those knives as drumsticks to tap along as much as I could.
Mark Destroy.
But I got to tell you, those parts were hard to figure out, and I gave up pretty quickly. It's hard to say I like or dislike this one. There are things that worked, and there are things that confused me, quite obviously. But that's most of this album.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that thing of, I feel like this stylistically, or I don't know if it's the band or the style of music, it feels a little bit like the rest of it. And I don't know if that's because it's a little bit of that kind of, I don't know how you would carbon copy this style, or if it's just the sound of the band and I can't differentiate what's different about it because it's just too fresh in my head. And I haven't really, I spent most of the week listening to this album and I'm still having a hard time processing it, but it's still cool where it's cool. Sorry.
Absolutely. Well, track 10, You're Doomed. Can you believe it? A short song title. Yeah, I know. Fitting way to end the record with this track. It's not long and it's an instrumental. As if the band they did need to let us know how musically talented they are. But this definitely cements it. And I dig the soundscape kind of leading and closing things out. Mark.
I completely agree. This is a nice little closer to round out the album. The tone the band is capable of can be missed with some of the heavier parts. So this worked well almost as like a palate cleanser after a really wild meal. And I got to tell you, because I listened to this on repeat a few times, having this in there really kind of just like helped smooth over restarting the album and kind of giving my brain a better understanding of it. Not that I would have used it as the opener. I like it here as the closer because again, it just helps kind of like, like it allows you to take a breath after that crazy album.
Yeah, the brain needs to recover. And you need to really like reflect on it. It's like having like a very like intense debate. Like the next day, you need to be like, "What happened exactly?"
Like just go get some water and some fish oil and like just
walk around the block. Well, again, not much on the band. I mean, after this album. And in 2008, the band would break up after 3 years of touring. In 2016, they would reunite for 5 shows, but they're still largely inactive. So that's kind of it with regards to the band. So Mark, take us with your final thoughts on this record, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, this one was a tough one for me to get into at first, Frank. Math rock is not part of the sonic landscape I typically traverse, so it took me a good number of listens and some talking it through with you, Frank. Thank you for me to get my head around this enough to start to begin to understand it, which is definitely where I feel like I still am, is the beginning of this. Variations on Swing is a great title for this, as the easiest way for me to process it was to think of it as really progressive jazz, and that and fighting my inner need for structure and repetitiveness. I'm going to pretty straight down the middle on my score here. It's a 5 out of 10. There's a ton here to get into, and a ton that someone with limited knowledge of this genre or style just doesn't or can't compute in a meaningful way. So I don't want to tell you that it sucks for what it is, because I really can't say that it does or it doesn't. It's not for me, but if that makes it bad or not, I have no clue. Clyde.
There's context to that 5 out of 10 for sure.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I don't want people to think, I would definitely, like, if we're trying to look at that scale and you go, all right, he put it right down the middle, I'm leaning to the positive side of it, right? So call it a 5.5 if it makes it easier for folks to digest. But Frank, this technique and technical playing is far more in your wheelhouse. So drop some knowledge on me.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I've tried, after I think first listening to this, to play around with some stuff, and even the other band I referred you to, Minus the Bear, they start getting some thoughts flowing in the head. And the hardest thing too, and I'll just say this before my actual review, the hardest thing is adjusting to the time signatures. To me, that and the whole writing of it, because everything in the mind, whether you want to know it or not, whether you know music or not, everything is so 4/4, right? It's such a structured time pattern that we have, and it's a natural occurrence. So to abandon that and to go ahead and start doing stuff that's constantly changing, just awkward in general, but that's kind of what creates this genre makes this genre work. It's tough. It's a complete different mindset. So the fact that they did this, to me, is really impressive. Here's my review now, right? So I think there's 2 components to a band like this, right? And, it plays a role with the review of the record. So context, like we're just talking about. One side, you have the musicality, right? And again, I could only imagine just the not only the composition, but the practicing, the performing them. And it was nothing short of challenging, guaranteed. Then the other side, you have the actual songs. And no wonder why a band like this really didn't last long before, because how can you continue after that, right? To me, and not get exhausted. To me, a band like this just needed one record, and that was it, right? And I don't mean that in a negative connotation as well, as I generally like this album. There are many things to like the uniqueness, and sure, the songs are hard to tell apart at times, and they could tire you out. However, there's some really high spots on these tunes, and it kept me coming back for more and more, even to the point, Mark, of suggesting this for an episode.
Yeah.
The emo screamo part. Listen, I could always get past because of the technicality of this band and the fact that the vocals aren't whiny at all. There's emotion to them, yes, but not in the way that waters down the product. Songs like Thorax, Damn Well Should, Champagne Hoff are among really my favorites, and they keep me coming back. I think the fact that there are, that we only get this one record really adds to the appeal to me. So for all that, again, that context, I actually give this an 8 out of 10. So
nice.
Yeah. Mark, what do you have for us next week? Because I'm excited.
I have a question for you, Frank.
Yes.
In order to create an air of mystery around himself and the band, this lead singer, known solely by a punctuation, would wear wraparound sunglasses while in public and tell people he was from Mars. Frank, do you know who we're listening to next week?
Wraparound sunglasses.
Uh-huh.
And you said, wait, what was the first?
He's known by a punctuation.
He's known by a punctuation. Wait, are we going with Prince or something like that?
We are not. We are going with Question Mark and the Mysterions, 1966, 96 Teardrops.
No way, dude.
Yeah, I've been really kind of working my way backwards through garage rock and finding some of those cornerstone bands and trying to understand. There's so many early 60s quote unquote garage rock bands that were just one-hit wonders that had these really wonderful albums and great turnout. So I wanted to go back to one that it's a personal favorite of mine, or at least the track everybody knows, 96 Teardrops, and look at that album for what it was and see where these bands started, where they come from, why maybe they didn't have any further hits, kind of just explore the early parts of that roots rock and roll movement that really that garage sound so heavily influenced by the British invasion.
Nice.
We're talking a lot of keyboards. We're talking there's some different stuffs in that early era, and it really always fascinates me. So I'm looking forward to it.
Me too, man. And again, we're coming across more and more of bands that fit into this bucket, right? Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting because I think they're obviously way more influential than people are giving them credit for. And it's really a cool journey. So that is awesome. 96 Tears, right? From 1966, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Pretty cool, man. I am amplified for that, Mark. Hey, we've made it here, right? Thanks for everyone for listening, tuning in, getting your math rock on and listening. Remember, subscribe, like, rate, review, be safe.
Absolutely. Hey, and if you're into math rock and that's your thing, and you think that we totally fucking got this wrong and backwards, we'd love to know why. But seriously,
yeah.
I know we're playing Music Critic and have to tell you, act like we know it all, but we love to learn more and more about music and different styles, and would love a conversation about it. So that doesn't include mocking us or wearing our hats or calling us names. Like what actually do you think about this, and what did we get right? What did we get wrong? We'd love to talk about it.
Yeah.
Anyways, drop a recommendation and some knowledge on us. Anywho, that's all the time we have for this episode. I read that like 96 times backwards.
I see what you did there.
But take a breath and scream with me. Oh my. Oh, hell yes. Oh. Bye-bye, Frank.
Oh, that was nice.
I'm gonna miss your body.
Always.
Oh, Always. Come on. Hey, how's it going, buddy?